This is Dogstorian.
Stories about dogs.
And their people.
And related species.
Like cats.
And this is me, Justina.
And this is me, Brian. Oh.
Meow.
I'm just dead with those uphills and downhills. That's 46 kilometers, which we just cycled in more than 3 hours. So the last kilometer uphill, I'm just walking. The route was Trier, Merzig. There's a lot of rivers and a lot of valleys, and it was all gorgeous. And we didn't stop enough to take pictures because we're on schedule to meet the wolf lady, which we're late to meet for maybe
Minutes away.
maybe almost an hour. But she sounded very nice on the phone, so I hope that she won't be angry. Even if we get to see the wolves, because this is Werner Freund Wolfpark, which is an open park. So there was this guy, Werner Freund, who decided to start working with wolves. He was, I think, a botanicist, a gardener at first. And he created this place. And I don't remember, he died in 2000 something. And since then, Tatjana and Michael took over the park. Now the park belongs to Merzig, to this town which is close to the forest where the wolves live now. And they're taking care of them. Okay, this is downhill. So I think I can try and cycle, even if I have a live mic in my pocket. Well, if you hear falling, I love forests, but I don't think that my tires are really appropriate for downhills in forests. Oh man, he's shooting something. I hope it's not a wolf. When he gets to see the first wolf, I'll be pissed. Brian, don't tell me that you see a wolf.
I wouldn't do that. This is the first sign for the park that I've
Brian,
seen.
don't tell me that you see a wolf first.
No, I'm trying to talk about the sign that you see me pointing the camera at.
Okay, that's my bike, by the way.
Wolfsweg, so Wolfway. I don't know what Ausweich means.
Ausweich.
Anyway, there's something route, probably the walking route. Anyway, let's go. We're late.
Yeah, so we go straight or left?
Yeah, straight.
Okay. On the road again.
Downhill again.
I'm riding on the bike again. Oh man, there's so many people here. Hallo, Tatjana?
Ja.
Ich bin Justina aus Frankfurt. Hi, sorry für Verspätung. Da ist es Brian, mein Partner. Ja, und ich muss entschuldigen, mein Deutsch ist vielleicht nicht so perfekt.
A little bit of English we can, but...
Okay. Well, that would be much easier.
No problem at all.
Let's go inside maybe, yeah?
Okay.
So maybe you could introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Tatjana Schneider. I'm also working here now for 27 years. So we did work with Werner Freund, who started it up here 20 years together. And when he died in 2014, I took over. And Michael and I, we are now keeping up the work in his idea. The idea here is to leave the wolves as natural as possible, so less influence of visitors and all that kind of stuff. We don't do circus tricks or whatever, so it's also not possible for visitors to get into the enclosure, to cuddle with them or whatever, because that would mean we break the rules they have in their territory. So when Michael and I go in there, we adapt to the territory and the wolves. We take care of their home rules and not ours.
My name is Michael Schönberger. I have been here for 27 years with Tatjana, and we have raised up all wolves living here in the park, and we are accepted by the wolves as a family. And it's just great to work with them, to observe the wolves and to see how they live together as a family.
How many wolves do you have now?
We have right now on this moment 18 wolves in 7 territories. And we have 4 different kind of species. So we have the timber wolves, we have the Mongolian wolves, we have the European wolves, and we have the Arctic wolves.
There are laws how many wolves you can keep in one enclosure. And at the moment, our law says we can keep 150 wolves in one enclosure.
Kidding me.
We have got here 2 to 3 wolves in one enclosure. But by law, we could keep 146 wolves per enclosure. The law was made by people who thought, okay, what's the smallest enclosure the wolves must have? The law was made for small enclosures. But if you calculate on our size, yes, you could put 150 wolves in one enclosure.
Thank you for not doing that. I'm so dying to ask you, how did you come to work here? I mean, what was your background? How did you convince them to hire you? I mean,
2 completely different ways. So
did you know each other before you came to work here? Okay.
No, but the funny thing is we started in the same year. I came here because my neighbor got me a postcard, and it was like a voucher. One afternoon helping here in the park with Werner Freund. And she gave it me as a present on my 13th birthday. After this afternoon, I asked Werner, can I come again? And he said yes. And
My tent and my van and my kitchen.
No, he is living here in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I come from somewhere.
And the funny thing is, for the next 2 years, I had no contact with the wolves. I just observed them and I had the chance to learn about them, about their language, about their behavior. And then in 1995, we had the chance to raise up our first wolf family, and they accepted us. And that was something very special to that time, because over the last 40 years, we had about 70 helpers. So they helped Werner Freund raising up the wolves, but nobody was able to stay in the family. They were all thrown out at one moment. And we had one co-worker, she has been here for 18 years, and she raised up 10 wolf families. And then every time she has been thrown out after some time. And we were accepted by them, and that was the special thing.
So why? How? What's the process? How do you know that one is kicked out or accepted?
What did you do differently?
It depends on how the wolves see you. You come in with a personality and they judge you on that. So not really judging, they know with 3 weeks old who they have in front of them. And they will also notice like, okay, that's a little bit wiggy and nervous and a little bit scared and here and there and that's easy, all that kind of stuff. So when they grow up, they will always try to, by playing, figuring out, because that's what cops do also with each other, by playing. So not that they get prepared on like, how do I attack? No, they go on strength and how much wisdom you bring with you. And also from your behavior itself. So if you're a very calm, a very easy person, then they will like that more. And even if they know like, okay, I'm sure that when we go on a hunt with her, or when here the sky is falling on our heads, then he or she will be there and taking care that we all survive. They will know. Mm-hmm. Although you don't have to do anything for that.
Did you guys independently study wolf behavior? Did you just observe the wolf's body language? How did you learn how to act around them?
That's where my story starts. So I'm officially not German. So I'm from the Netherlands. I'm born in Germany, but as a baby went to the Netherlands. And when I got my first dog, Schönberger, she brought me up instead of I her. She did teach me anything I needed to know and to learn about dogs. And she was a very, very strong character. And she did things where I had something like, okay, it looks very logical to me, but I don't quite understand it. And I wanted to understand it as a human. And then I started with studying the behavior of dogs and then with wolves. So I worked in the beginning with Grupo Lobo. They got involved with the Iberian wolves, the ones in Spain and Portugal. And at that time where I got started with that group, the Spain and Portugal had only 250 or 300 left. So they were increasing. And that project started something like, okay, getting pairs out of the wilderness and get them to another park or a zoo where they don't have contact to people or whatever, and so that they could breed. And the breeding came then in a few years back into the wilderness, and then it started up again to 3,000 to 4,000 in living in wild in Spain and Portugal. I believe nowadays it's already 2,500 again.
In Italy
But
as well.
yes. And I started with that. And then I had something like, okay, let's go around the world to several wolves experts like David Meach, Luigi Buitani, Gérard Menaterie, Britta Rothausen. And then Werner Freund was the last on my list because he was only 300 kilometers away from me. So I put him at last on the list. First I came with a group and we had a weekend here, and then in that weekend I asked him like if it was possible to work with him 2 weeks to look over his shoulder like, okay, what are you doing exactly? And after that I stayed. So he asked me then in the last days from those 2 weeks if I had interest in raising up Arctic wolves with him the next year, and I was like, okay, more close you can't come, huh? So, and then I decided to come that year after, and so I stayed.
You guys obviously must enjoy what you do because you've been here a long time. What keeps you here? What keeps it interesting?
The wolves and their lives and their social behavior, especially because we as humans can learn a lot from the wolves. They have a very high social community, and there is a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to wolves also. I was very lucky to observe wolves in the wilderness, and in the same time here in captivity. And you have also wolves in captivity, but they get trained or whatever. And that's what Werner never did. And that was what was very interesting for me, because in their enclosure, and it's a big one, so they have a lot of space. They can go back, because when you look now there, you don't see any of them, and there are 4. So they have the possibility to get back from the people, so they don't need to be in front of here. They can choose themselves if they like it or not, and complete their own life. And the most beautiful part here is that where others say like, okay, but they are raised up by hand and all that kind of stuff, so they can't hunt anymore, and this and that, and they are socialized on people. But here it's different, because they know their territory, and they know exactly the distance between the territory and here, the fence here for the visitors. As soon as you get the fence away and they can get to the main fence, you will see also the behavior of the wolves change. So if a tree falls down here and there's a big hole in the fence so the wolves can come out, you could stand 20 people. On that moment where they come out, they will all react the same as every wild living wolf, because it does not belong to their territory. So they need to be careful.
So they retreat?
Not retreat, but they will look like, okay, how do we get around the crowd? So that the behavior will be the same as the wild living ones when they have the choice to get away from the crowd, get around it, and then into the forest. They will do. All of them. But you also have characters by wolves. There could also be one who says like, okay, you look like fun.
Or easy.
Let's see.
Or tasty.
No, we are still not on the menu plan.
For the wolves, it's when we visit animal park, we are safe, or we feel safe, because we know the animal won't come to our side. On the other hand, here in our park, the wolves know the humans don't come on our side. That's why they feel safe on such a close distance. But when the fence isn't there anymore, people would say, oh, now it could become dangerous for me because the wolves and we are on the same space. But the wolves think exactly the same. If our wolves come out, they just would run away because they would be afraid of the people.
Has that happened? Did you have, because you mentioned a tree, was it a specific tree?
We had several storms here, and the last one was the storm Cynthia. And to that moment, we had 22 wolves in our park, and 19 of the 22 wolves had the chance to go outside, because so many trees have fallen on the fences within that storm. So Tatjana and I, we ran through the park observing trees. When a tree came down, we had a look after the wolves, and some of them we just moved to a safe enclosure. But for example, the Canadian wolves have been outside 3 times that day. We went through the park and saw them, and we just called them, "Hi guys, how are you?" And the wolves came to us and said, "Yeah, you are here too. Great, let's have a party." And we just walked over the normal way back to a safe enclosure. So they had no wish to run away. They had just something like, okay, let's have a look what's outside.
And there you also see the difference between the species we have, because the European ones, they also had the possibility. But they were looking at the hole in the fence like, oh my God, is it going to kill us? Oh, danger, danger, danger. And the black ones, they were only looking like, okay, which tree? When? And as soon as it fell, they were the first one to get out, and mostly walking up to the Arctic ones. Mm-hmm. So in the Arctic ones, they also had a big hole in the fence, but were lying there and had something like, wow, that's a nice new tapestry in our territory.
Is it an upgrade or downgrade?
We look later at it. And it was very interesting to see at that day also the behavior of the other kinds, although we did not have much time observing their behavior, but you could observe it, and it was sometimes fun, but not always. So it was we had luck that day, because every hour one territory got destroyed, so the wolves could get out, so you could get after those wolves and try to get them in a safe enclosure. And
so let me just get this straight. In the end, you didn't lose any wolves.
No.
And they basically just followed you back into the enclosure.
Yes, because it's also danger for them.
Yeah.
They know, like, okay, every tree here could be deadly. So they were also very on the road, so very awake, every time moving, because it's a lot of trees here. And so they were also very happy to see one of us, so or Michael or me, like, okay, you know where to go to. You are going to save us or put us in a safe place or whatever.
In all other zoos, animal parks, when wolves escape, none of them has been recaptured in over 20 years. At least in Europe. I don't know about other countries except Europe, but in Europe, no wolf could ever be caught. They have all been shot. Because even with tranquilizer guns work on 30 meters. But wolves can sense you about 100 meters. And then, even if the wolves come close, you get one with a tranquilizer shot, but not the whole group. So at the end, when a wolf escaped in other parks, at the end he has been shot, and we got all our wolves back.
And by the not hand raised.
Yeah, that's our connection with the wolves. They trust us as a family, and we had the chance to bring them back in the enclosure.
I see one.
That's Carlo.
There you go, our first wolf.
They also have names here, but they don't listen to that. Normally we have 3 here, but Peter is in the second part, because we had a lot of problems with dogs the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I was wondering. I think you guys don't allow dogs in here, right?
Since the first this year, they are not allowed anymore.
Well, here he comes. So what is the name of this one?
That's Carlo over there, but we also have a Guido. He's a little bit more black.
Yeah, this one looks pretty gray and almost white on the legs.
Yeah, they are old. They are 12 years old.
They're pretty
Already.
big. So that's quite long, no? Because I think in the wilderness they live around up to 9, maybe
Between
8.
6 till 9 years old.
Yeah.
You also have exceptions.
Oh, there's two. There's a second one. So are they a pair?
Yes, those are brothers. They are from
Brothers.
Austria. Yes. And
So
then
how
we
does
also have
competition work between them now?
No,
they-
there is no competition because Carlo
are
is
no
the
girls.
lowest one in ranking and knows his place. And here Guido comes. He is the one who took over now.
Wow.
It's
Then we
wagging its tail. I can see why you've stayed in this job. This is pretty magical.
Absolutely.
Oh, they are very,
Wow, what
very
color?
social, and you have a great connection to them, and it's incredible how they also move with each other in the family, and how straight the rules are, and everybody knows from everybody, like, okay, this is my job, and that's what I do, and it works so well.
So I have a question. You've mentioned hand rearing these wolves a couple times. Can you be specific about what you mean? Because we read about the socialization
Hand
window
raise?
for wolves
Yeah.
as opposed to dogs.
Hand raising here was only giving the bottle and taking care of the parts that the mother used to do, like licking their belly, so we don't lick their belly, but we rub the belly so they, how do we call that?
It helps their digestion.
Yes,
Yeah, it's-
digestion and all that kind of stuff. So that's the only part we did, and then we put them on the floor and let them play and all that kind of stuff. So if one of the cubs would like to come to us to cuddle, then that was all right. But it was not allowed to run after them or picking them all the time up and doing like with little whelps, dog whelps, like. But they are also very social when they stay wild. So we did say, like, okay, we let them keep them themselves, so as much as possible wolf in any way it could. We adapt to them and not the other way around, so that we could see much more of their behavior. Because in the wilderness, it's not always easy to see their behavior or their hunting behavior or their social life. Like in 2011, we were very lucky that we had, with the Arctic ones, there were three little ones, 3 guys.
Born here?
Yes, and then we decided to let them stay with the parents, so mom, dad, and the aunt. And I lived at that time almost 8-9 months in that territory to look like, okay, how do they develop? Who's taking charge of the hunting games? Who is cleaning them up? Who is taking care of insects and all that kind of stuff, fleas and ticks and whatever? And who is going with the food to the little ones and throw up, regurgitate, or how do you call that? Although the father is not getting involved in that way anyway, the dad up there, he really did his work. So he also threw up for his kids and all that kind of stuff.
Dads as well.
And you could see how they developed, because Charlie, I know, he was 4 weeks old at that time. And then they got the first piece of meat, little pieces.
From
And
you
he was
or from the wolf?
No. The mother and the auntie. It was very important that they swallowed it first. And then he was 4 weeks old, and he got a piece of meat, and he walked away from the group, completely alone in the forest. And I had something like, okay, where is he going alone with 4 weeks old?
Wow.
Up the hill, he stopped in the middle of a few trees, and he started digging with his little paws. Put the meat in the hole, and with his little nose, something like, okay, for later. Could be bad times, you never know.
Well,
And
you
he
need
was
to save
4
dessert.
weeks old, 4 weeks, and I was astonished. I was sitting there and had something like, no way. Yeah, and so it gave many more, because you had really the opportunity to be in the middle of it, and you could really observe,
Irreplaceable.
like when the father starts hunting games with the little ones and show them the techniques and all that kind of stuff. And they were 3 months old, I believe, 12 weeks, where he started it. So he started very early with the mouse he catched, yes. Michael did a great picture of that. You see the father walking and the three behind him, and he has got in the front of his teeth a dead mouse. But he had something like, okay, before you get it, I will show you first how to whatever.
Do you feed them live animals so they can chase, or are they...
Live animals are forbidden, so the law forbids us, and that's okay, because the animal should have a chance to escape. Wolves attack weak animals, old animals, or ill animals. So if we would put healthy deer inside, 2 days later the deer would eat his grass and the wolves would be on one side afraid of the deer because the deer would be much too powerful.
I guess it depends how hungry
Yes,
they would
depends
be.
on how hungry
Yes.
they are. Because when we say like, okay, we let them starve 3 weeks and you put then a little Bambi in there, then you will see a hunt like in the wilderness.
For sure. Do, obviously.
No, but the point is the wolves train themselves. So one of the wolves becomes the bait and the other ones try to hunt the bait down. They test their territory. So what abilities do they have with the territory? Is there a fallen tree? Is there a rock or something to hide? And when is the distance close enough to have a chance to get the bait? They could hunt. So they have all the techniques, the training, and if they come outside, they would be able to hunt their animals, no problem.
Are the techniques universal across species, across different types
Now,
of wolves?
techniques are, I guess, when you take it basically, then the techniques are most the same, but it depends on the biggest of the prey, because the Iberian ones and the Indian ones, the wolves, they are the smallest ones on Earth, will have probably also other prey, and not like in Canada where a bison and an elk, where you are talking about more than 500 kilo on weight, that's where also the complete family. And the Indian ones and the Iberian ones, you see them most of the time as pairs. So not a big family group. In Canada or in America, a group can grow up to 25 members in a family. Not necessarily, but it could. Then the territory, cold, warm, how they are built themselves, and some have different techniques. Yes, that also depends on the members.
Yeah, we could observe the wolves. We had one lonely living wolf. He was very old and he hunted down the hawks. We had one group who tested the territory, so they put meat on a special point in the area and they have hidden behind trees and they waited for a raven to pick up this meat and then they attacked the raven.
So Huka here is our greatest one, huh? When it comes to planning.
One special, yes.
We always call her very lovely, the intelligent one.
The point is wolves, if you think about wolves at all, I would say a wolf is a problem solver.
In a way that's different from dogs?
I would say a dog is from his knowledge and his intelligence on the age of a child, a human child. So he knows what's right and what's wrong, but if you want, he does something stupid. A wolf has grown up. He wants his family to survive, and everything for him is a problem, and he must solve the problem. Do I go left or right? Is there a river to cross? How do I cross the river? All these problems must be solved, and then, okay, there is the bait. How do I get the bait? What bait will it be? The weaker one? Do I attack now or will I wait 2 or 3 days until the bait becomes weaker again? So the wolf always has his problems to solve, and I think that's the special thing at wolves, because they always try to solve them. For example, hunting sheeps. We have been in Kyrgyzstan, and the sheep keeper in the mountains, they change their way of keeping their sheeps, because some years they can use dogs, in some years they can't use dogs because the wolves developed a way to betray the dogs. So they always work on a system. Okay, now the wolf have developed a strategy, so we as humans must change our strategy. And then it takes 10, 5-10 years again until the wolves develop a new strategy. And then we must change it again.
That's because you cut it on the moment where you change your strategy. If the sheep herd used to have Caucasian sheepdogs, then he will turn into Chihuahuas. Little,
No, there's so
small,
many types.
loud barking, blah, blah,
Tangles.
blah, whatever, and the wolves don't see them. And that's a situation that changed and that also stops the learn process to all the other members of the family because on that moment there's something completely new, different. Like, whoa, okay, now we need to change our strategy.
You mentioned that it changes 10, 15 years it might take. So that means that they transfer knowledge generationally.
Yes.
Yes.
So, for example, in Kyrgyzstan, the farmers, let's call them farmers, they had big protecting dogs, the Caucasian Ovcharka. But one day, the wolves developed a strategy to bring the Ovcharkas away.
Get them away from the herd.
The problem was, in these years, when the Ovcharka was there, the farmers could leave the sheep alone with the dogs, and they could work in the town, for example. They just left them in the mountains. But when the wolves developed strategy to separate the dogs and kill the sheep, the farmers had to change their strategy. So they stayed with small dogs in the mountains for several years until a new generation was born and raised up. So the last generation couldn't teach the new generation about the system.
I had no
And
idea.
when the knowledge has been lost, then the farmers could change their strategy again. They could work in the town again.
Yeah, but I'm wondering how much this behavior is common in all of the wolves. Let's say some behaviors are more common for specific areas, or it's basically universal that they are able to teach generationally, that they are able to respond to these changes.
I guess that this system could work everywhere, but you have individuals with wolves. Wolves are the same as us humans.
It really makes me wonder about how much, if any, of that problem-solving nature is still residual in dogs.
The street dogs, they know how to survive because that's the big difference between dog and wolf. The wolf needs to survive and takes care of his own. And the dog nowadays knows like, okay, she takes care of everything, so I'm only part of the family. And that's what the dog knows. You have some dogs who still have it also when they get born without teaching or whatever. So my Dishna, as an example, she was 6 months old when she...
What kind of breed is this?
Schönberger, so a big one. She saved my life when she was 6 months old. We were in Czechia doing a truck trial with my husband at that time. Then I said to my husband, like, okay, I'm going to get Dishna for a walk, and then she get food. And we start walking. I had the boots on for my husband, size 44. And we were walking on a path like this, but then completely sand. And then we came on a crossing, and 4 meters in front of that, she sat down, and no movement anymore. And that sounded like, okay, Dishna, let's come. Go on. And she was sitting there and had something like, no way. You can go to hell, but I am not going to move any meter more. And then I looked at her, and as humans are, something like throwing the leash to her, like, okay, then stay and sit there. See how you get your food for today. And I start walking, and I was 3 meters further, and whoosh, gone I was. Till here in the quicksand, the path where I thought it was the crossing was quicksand.
How did she know? How could she know that?
She somehow knew it because that was the reason why she did not want to move on anymore. She had something like, no way, Jose, you are going to get over that alone, girl, not with me. And I was lying there and felt how the boots got fuller and more sinking until I was still here in it. And I had something like, okay, keep calm. What am I going to do here? So what did she do for 6 months? She took the end of the leash and started rubbing towards me with her belly on the floor until she knew like, okay, there is the border where the quicksand starts, and put the leash on the edge of that. and I could move with my right arm back and took with one finger the leash, and she pulled me out. Yes, that was my luck.
6 months.
6 months old.
She was 6 months.
Yes.
Was she trained
No,
in anything?
No, not at all. And that was, for me, the moment where I had something like, okay, we do immensely underestimate animals. Still, now, also, when I see people with their dogs and when they say like, oh, no, he's too young for that. Well, I have something like, he can. Be sure. So, and I took her always with me on the survival weekends, because she always showed me like crossing a river, and when there was a waterfall or whatever, then she always had something like, no, not there. And then she went with me 50 meters down next to the river, and then she was standing there and looking at me like, okay, here you can go over. But up there,
Trust me.
yes, oh, I fully trusted her. We were very, very thick.
You said you have how many wolves here now?
18. We have 18 for now. So Werner used to get little ones as soon as he knew, like, okay, the other one's getting old, and got them involved in the group. That works. That does succeed for the first 2 years till they get adult. Mm-hmm. And then you see a slight little struggle between the wolves, because the youngest ones will start getting the territory and the oldest ones cannot leave. So that's not very good, very nice here in captivity, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I don't want to do anymore. So what I want to do is get a pair that's not familiar with each other, so the same species but not familiar, and then raised by hand, and then in adultness they will have naturally their own cubs, and let them also stay with the parents. So we have in the south area here 2. Peter, the Canadian one, and here from the Mongolian ones, Batu, who are living in the second part. Mm-hmm. And it was because of dogs, because...
By visitors, you mean?
Yes. It was mostly of the time when it was big groups. And then you always had 2 or 3 which were very upset and always jumping up here on the fence and barking and growling and whatever. And then you also had dog owners who meant like, okay, let's put the dog over the fence that he directly could attack the wolves at the fence. And that did tear apart a complete Arctic family up in the north area. Yes, because they get so upset. They would like to kill the dogs, but they can't because the fence is between it. But the frustration is there, and they build it up. So, and then one family member just stands wrong at that time or takes a breath too much. A little, just a little thing where normally a family member would say like, get away, you're getting on my nerves, point. But then the reaction, same as like us people. It's the same way, the same system. So, and then they got the son very, very badly injured, his brother. Yes, and then the aunt, she still has a scarf under her eye. It went wrong completely with the family, and they were 8 years happily harmonious together. Until, and that was a big, big group of wolf dogs.
You mean in the group people had brought wolf dogs?
Yes, not hybrids. We've got 2 official wolf dogs. One Dutch, Leonard Salus. That was the guy who started in the 60s with breeding shepherd, German shepherd dog with wolf, hopefully to get the positive sides of a shepherd dog and a wolf together in one dog. So in the first breeding went totally wrong, so he stopped. But then a few years later he did it again, and then there came a group out where he said like, yeah, that's what I wanted. And then you have also the Czechoslovakian wolf's dog. It's also an official breed. They are much opener, but it's a special kind of race of dog where people really need to think about when they get one of them, what they are doing. No, it's a big problem. And we also are going to get a problem here when it comes to directly hybrids between wolves out of the wilderness and dogs who are running free and have been taken care of. And I know that in Italy, in the Abruzzen, they had a real big problem after a complete village out of the mountains got down and left their dogs there. I do believe Günter Bloch and Eric Ziem called them very lovely, the spaghetti dogs. So because they got mixed. When a dog bitch is in heat or a wolf female is in heat, they don't care. They mate and they don't stay together. Not like wolves with each other, wolves stay together. So they say wham bam, thank you ma'am, and gone. Especially the hybrids, it depends on how their character also is, because when there's more dog in it, then they also have the problem. Those are the kinds who will attack instead of getting away. And other problems like getting in the middle of a sheep herd and kill them all, although normally they would need 1 or 4.
Yeah, I was wondering, I kept reading about these occurrences when wolves come and they kill off 10, 20, 30 even sheep, and for me that doesn't seem very realistic.
It is, it does happen. Depends on where, how the sheep are hauled. When a shepherd is in free nature, wilderness, herding his sheep, and they can move wherever they want to, then you will see that only 1 sheep gets killed. When they are fenced in and do live there, then when 1 wolf comes in there and starts a hunt, you get panic. So what do the sheep do? They run through each other. And the wolf is standing there and is getting also annoyed of it, like, whoa, which one? Because normally he takes one in the picture where he says like, okay, that's mine. I'm going behind that one. The rest I don't care. But when the sheep are starting walking, then he also gets very
Agitated?
Yes, and has something like, okay, snap that one, that one, and then you get more injured or killed than possible. It's the same like the fox in a chicken barn, where all the chickens also start getting hysterical, and the fox also needs only 1 chicken, but he will kill them all.
There's 2 over there.
I'm going to check where they are. It can be that they are down there, but die sind im zweiten Teil.
Do you speak in German with them or in English as well?
They don't care. It's about the voice. So Michael is mostly the big talker to the wolves. I mostly whisper with them. There is one coming. That's Mose. Hey, Mosey Bear. Yeah.
2 of them. 2 gorgeous wolves.
Hey, Mose.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful.
And the one behind, that's Hookah. That's the female. Hey.
That is some greeting. I'm a little jealous. A little jealousy going on there. They're just like dogs. You don't pet him, pet me. You're not done.
You're standing on my toes, my little dear. You're standing on my toes. Yes, yeah. It's all good. Yes. It's all good. It's all good.
Are these siblings?
Those are brother and sister. So, And they do really love each other, but it's also a kind of communication. It does not mean always bad. It's like, okay, she's now here with me, and he's also having like, so, yeah, but I'm also there. And she's now trying to put her position towards him in the right direction, like, okay, think about it.
So what status do you have?
That depends on how you act. We don't interact in their hierarchy, so they have their own lives here, they have their rules. We fit in that. If we don't, if I now start running here and dancing jazz or whatever, loud singing, then those two will have something like a, huh?
That's not in order.
Yes, that's not in our living room. What I do outside there, they could care less, but not in their living room. So I hold myself on their rules. And that's the only possible way to see their real life.
So I'm noticing one of them is sniffing the door handle very much. Have they ever tried to open the door themselves?
We had one, he died 2 years ago, an Arctic one, Amarok. He was the only one who knows how to open that door from the inside, because we have extra those balls. But he knew, like, with the backside of his jaw, putting on,
Twisting.
one turn, and it was open, because every time we found him in the cabin, which is, we will come up there, I showed you the cabin.
All right.
And then one morning a colleague of me, he called me completely upset, like, Tatjana, you must come immediately. And I was like, what's wrong, Tony? Just come. And then I got into the Jeep, drove over to it, and I was driving here on the crossing, and I saw already on 500 meters what was going on. And I saw those 3, 4 Arctic ones running around the cabin, but another colleague left the door open. So they took completely everything out of the cabin, which was from Werner, covers, sheets, pillows, his house shoes, and I don't know what, books, a lot of books. And they had a big party overnight there, and that's what we found in the morning. So in the cabin itself, it was all nice and neat, but outside there was catastrophe.
Well, they needed to have some fun, don't they?
That was very funny. And in the beginning, I thought, like, okay, it's our fault. Somebody left the door open or did not close this door. After it happened a second time, and then the third time. And then I had something like, okay, this is not a failure from us. And then I found out how he opened the door. But he was the only one. Would they have kids again? He would have showed it, one of them. So we can walk up now to the...
Sure.
They really know you, because of all these people that are around us here, they're following you, and their eyes are following you.
Huh? Yeah.
They finally realize you're leaving their enclosure area, but
Here I am.
they've really been following you.
Here I am.
How would they behave if you started mixing the packs? Or just types, even as small babies?
Of course. So with small babies, so the little ones, it's very easy to get them into a pack with the age of 4 or 5 months. They will know, like, okay, those are little ones, they need to be taught, they need to be raised, all that kind of stuff. But putting just an adult wolf into an existing group, that could be his death.
Did you notice that difference, that they are a bit more aggressive in captivity than in the wild? Or is that more of a myth?
That depends on how big is the territory, how did you put the group together, how does the family fits together. So because when you have two in a group which don't understand each other or don't like it to be with each other, they will always, their lifelong be enemies and fighting against each other. So you will always have injuries, and that is what you saw a lot in zoos. And that's why they came in the 70s also with those stories like strict hierarchy and alpha wolf. No, you must show the dog that you are the chef. You have some dogs who need that, yes.
Yeah, that was
But
my childhood. That was
all,
the
but
popular
that's-
myth at the time was you got to be the alpha dog and everything.
That was in my time also. So I always had problem with my dog trainers because my Dishna, she was one when I was on training with her, and it got 5 times said like, sit. The first 3 times she did sit and looked at me like, I'm great, am I? By the 4th time, she was looking at me like,
What are you trying to prove with this?
what do you want from me? I showed you already. I proved it 3 times that when you say sit, then I sit. And now I don't want to sit anymore. She started teaching me because I went with her from the place into the shadow underneath the tree, was sitting there with her, and we took a break. And then the trainer came to me and said, oh, that's great. He said, so the dog is training you because she doesn't want to sit down anymore. She says like, okay, no, we are going now into the shadow and lay down there and have a break. No, not exactly. I decided it, not she did. But I also think it's not necessary that when the dog 3 times proves that she can sit on command, and at the 4th and the 5th time she is looking at me like, okay, if I would have little fingers, I would show you this one. Yeah. She never got nasty because I sometimes did then what she wanted to do. Because I also knew like, okay, it will not bring anything when I now start yelling at her and getting aggressive because the 4th and the 5th time she doesn't want to sit, that she needs to sit. I said, no, it's okay. The ones who are in the field workers now, who really go in wild nature behind wolves and for a few months or weeks to observe. They did observe completely other stuff. That's the same thing that David Merzig did, observe something completely different than that what we knew from the zoos.
Michael, do you think part of the reason you guys have been successful, been accepted by the wolves, is because you're doing things more in their terms, or have been better at observing what works for them rather than imposing what you want on them? Or, I mean, why do you think that you've been successful in that regard?
I think we are open to the wolves. The German word would be ehrlich.
Yeah, to be honest.
Honest,
Just honest.
The wolves know us. They feel that we are honest to them. So when I go in the enclosure, I feel like being with my family, being with my group, and I would do anything for them and they would do anything for me. And we are one family to survive everything. There are many people who would like to work with wolves because they want to tell about it. I'm working with wolves, I'm the hard leader and something like that. And I think the wolves can feel that. When we are with the wolves, they are our family. Each group is our family when we are inside with them. And you can feel it if there's a dangerous situation, for example, or if the wolves feel ill or we feel ill. The wolves take care of you or they come close to you because they think, okay, we can protect them. I think that's a big point. So we don't want to stand above the wolves. We don't want to give them any commands or control them. We just want to be with them in one family.
Have you ever had any experiences where you realized that the wolves were noticing that something was unusual or off about you? Like you mentioned being sick. Have you ever had an experience where you could tell the wolves could sense something about you?
Yes, of course. If we are sick or we had a really bad day, so even some wolves who would be normally very powerful with you, they come and jump up on you, and just while greeting, they just come much calmer to you. They just have a look at you or they just sit next to you and have a good time with you. They feel how I'm feeling at the moment or Tatjana feeling at the moment. So we have to look at the wolves and we must see, okay, how do the wolves feel at the moment? If a wolf is sad or stressed at the moment, we can't go inside and say, hey, let's have a party. We have to sense how the wolves feel. And the opposite way, it works the same.
I really wonder, I mean, we talk about this all the time, if we could go back in time and see when the first human beings started to realize there was something about wolves that could be useful. The wolves are hanging around camps, maybe for the extra food. But I really wonder when people started to notice this social aspect, this kind of extra sensitivity, whatever it is that allows us to communicate with dogs and with wolves in your case, it's kind of extraordinary, I think, and really fascinating for us.
I think at the beginning, the main reason why wolves and people could work together was they have a quite same social structure. For example, here in the park, when people ask us questions about the wolves, I always tell them, okay, ask yourself, what would humans do? And the answer is, most of the time is the same. So if a wolf would attack, a human would attack too in that situation. If a wolf would run away, the human would run away too. So that's the basic, I think. In former times, it was co-working. The human had the instruments to kill animals. The wolves had the nose and the sense to find the animal. And they just worked together in that way. Perhaps some wolf just came along, a group of humans, and they worked together. They never touched each other, but they stayed in a close area and they worked together.
Great symbiosis.
Or for example, some men found some cubs and they trained them because they saw the ability of the wolves. So I think that was the start. And from that point, when the first wolves stayed near the people, they could improve the system and breed to specialize the wolves. Two specialized dogs like the shepherd who listen to commands, or Dackel, dachshund to have a good nose, or the Windhund
Greyhounds
to run fast. When the wolf was together with the people, they specialized them for their needs. But at the beginning, they just were coexistent and had a symbiosis to work together.
Yes, until people start keeping livestock, and then it was over. That's where it stopped.
Fair enough. You can bring the wolf into the living room maybe, but you can't take the wolf out of the wolf. You seem to be thinking of some stories about an answer to my question about having had experiences where the wolf sensed something about you.
Yeah. When I had infections or something here in the shoulder or elbow, which even the doctor could not see or whatever, which wasn't to see on X-ray, then they notice it. They directly come, and instead of greeting, like jumping up to you, licking your face, they were first sniffing like, you got pain? And then they took care of me.
How did they take care
by
of you?
being careful. That was the same thing with Werner Freund when he got old. He was almost 81 when he died. You must think that's more than 200 kilos of flesh jumping up to you. And when he got weaker and weaker by getting older, you saw that they always had something like, okay, first come in, sit down or lay down, and then we come and greet. But they did not jump at him anymore. Also a fairy tale that came from wherever, that when you show weakness, then the wolf will attack, because that's the moment where he needs to attack. That's the easiest way. No, a wolf doesn't work like that. Such thing you can expect from humans, but not from a wolf. A wolf will not especially attack in the family, one who's weaker. It's the same story like, okay, wolves who got old in the wilderness and it was too much work and it was uncomfortable. Then they used to kill their parents or the old ones, like, okay, and gone with you, so that we can go on, we can move on then, and you are not more than luggage which we don't want to carry anymore. No. When they learn a lot from their parents, as old as they get, they will take care of them. So if they even cannot go with them on the hunt, then the oldest ones stay at home, take care of the youngsters or whatever, who cannot go with on the hunt. But they will never kill them because, you are too much work or whatever. They don't do that. And when the oldest one thinks like, okay, now the end is near, then they will leave by themselves. They will leave and find a place where they can easily die.
I wanted to ask about this because I know that some dogs do that as well, or at least people report that whenever they are at the end of their lives, they go away.
Yes.
So you notice that with wolves.
Yeah.
We had that happen with a husky. Our husky, she wandered off into the woods to die.
We had the same with the wolves. Some of them, if they are old, they go down in a hole and they just want to die there. Yeah.
Yeah, because they cannot live anymore. They cannot hunt. Do feel probably like, okay, I don't want to walk anymore. I don't want to move anymore. That's intensive and all that kind of stuff. And they feel it when they know, like, okay, a few days, and then it's gone. It's over.
I don't know if this is a sensitive question for you here, but do you let the wolves live out their lives naturally, die naturally, or have you ever made a decision to end it?
It's sometimes we make decisions because we have the system here, like in summertime when a wolf really gets old and you know, like, okay, he's also getting ill from the inside, so he doesn't show that to us directly, but you notice it in the way of behaving and all that kind of stuff. We have here then in the summertime you've got the big flies. Mm-hmm. It's a very for us
everywhere.
a very nasty part of Mother Nature, but for the wolf itself or for the animal, it's a very great way to die quick and instead of starving for weeks. Because those flies lay in a few minutes millions of eggs and all that kind of stuff. And within an hour they get little worms and get into the flesh and start eating the wolf from the inside out. Yeah, it sounds for us very, very, it's also not nice to see. But every time one of those things is eating, it gets tranquilized, the skin around.
sedation.
Yes, it's a natural sedation, yes. But when we see that and we see like, okay, it's a big spot and it doesn't work anymore because, you know, like, okay, the wolf is 15 years old and whatever, what do you want to save? If it's now a 4-year-old one, then you're going to do everything to survive. But when it's an old one, then we say like, okay, instead of leaving him now for 1 or 2 days like that, because in 2 days he will be dead. But then we get involved and say like, okay, come, we help him.
Wondering, what about the howl?
The howling, yes. Howling has different reasons. So it could be one alone on the road who wants to know, are there somewhere here in the neighborhood, or do we come into a territory of another one? And where are they in the territory, or do we better leave outside from the territory and went through there? Then the howling here, when I start howling and they react, it goes like, okay, I'm here, where are you? And react then. So we are going to do that as a finish. It will take probably some time, although I did not hear them howl today. Yeah, so that was the Wolfpark.